Today we're looking at a Digital Equipment Corporation terminal from the early 1990s, a VT520. Before computers had modern monitors or keyboards as we know today, and even well after, you interacted with them through devices like this, a video terminal. The VT520 is basically a smart screen and keyboard that connects to a bigger computer, usually somewhere else, over a serial connection, letting you type commands and read output in real time. It doesn't run its own operating system per se, but does come with some very impressive firmware baked in to let you configure various settings. This one arrived with a jammed power button, and I can't turn it on, so we'll have to pull the lid off and see if we can figure out what's going on in there. We'll get it hooked up to an IBM RS6000 running AIX, create an adapter for the proprietary MMJ cables DEC like to use, and get a Cisco router connected up to one of the terminal's 4 COM inputs. It even has a very impressive window manager to let you see multiple sessions at the same time. My mom also worked for DEC throughout the 1980s, as evidenced here by a picture of her at the Digital Equipment Corp Christmas Dance from 1982. So we're lucky enough to have a brief chat with her about what it was like working at DEC back then.
Like I said, I had a typewriter, and I got some sort of card in the mail or something like how's the service or something like that. I can't quite remember.
Like a feedback form or something?
Yeah, and I'm like, well, I don't even have a computer, yet I work for a computer company. So this is what I don't get, and I sent it back.
Let's get into it. We're looking at something very special today. Inside this box, it looks like it's going to be a normal monitor, but it isn't. It's a terminal. And if we start digging in here, you can see we've got a DEC model VT520 from the early 90s is when this came out. Looks like this one was built February of 1996. Hoping it's a low hour unit if I can get it to work. Look around a little more. This is not how it was shipped. It was shipped with a lot more packing inside that I've since thrown away because I'm not going to ship it anywhere. We have the stand, which is incredible. The guy I bought this from shipped this separately for me because if you take a look, pretty easy to imagine that these tiny clips could break. So we're going to be really careful when we put this on the monitor. And it came to me all the way from Canada. Unfortunately, other than the awesome line art of the item on the box, there's not a whole lot else. I was hoping for like a DEC logo, you know, that'd be kind of cool. We do have Made in the USA. I don't know if they're talking about the box or the actual item or both. And then, of course, the tag VT520-CA, I'm guessing, sent to Canada. I'm sure they had slightly different barcodes and stuff for which country they were going to. So I am going to very carefully take this thing out of its box and we'll have a look around. See if we can't get it working today. It's surprisingly heavy. Here it is next to its stand. It's in really good shape. I don't think I see burn-in. This is a monochrome unit, meaning it's going to be, you know, no color, no video graphics. And I'm pretty sure this era, towards the end of the life of these terminals, this is one of the last terminals DEC made, it's going to be white on black. So it won't be that cool like green or amber phosphor or anything like that. But we'll see. I could be wrong there. I bought this from 2DFX over at the Serial Port Discord, so a huge thanks to him for boxing it up and getting it down here to me safely. I think he had a catalyst switch I was buying from him as well. I think after shipping it was about $300. I bought this about a year ago. Vast majority of that cost was shipping. But anyway, I'm glad to have it. We do have a problem though. The power button is physically stuck. I don't know if from shipping or something, it can't be pressed. I think it's stuck in the off position. I plugged this in a few weeks ago and nothing happened. And of course I can't move the power button. So what I'm hoping happened is maybe some plastic broke or it jostled during, you know, got tweaked during shipping or something. I'm assuming it's a clunk button. The button is stuck kind of at an angle. And there is, I don't know if you're going to hear it. There is something in here. There's at least one little piece of plastic rolling around in there. And I plugged it in, so that's unfortunate. That means I'm going to have to be really careful when I get in here. I'm not equipped to repair it if there's anything actually wrong with it. I mean, I could figure it out, but I don't know. I'm hoping it's fine. And I open this up and I can kind of free this button up, or at least see how it maybe permanently leave it on. I just plug it in. But let's talk about this thing before we open it up. Like I was saying, it's not just a monitor, it's a terminal. And that's going to make more sense when we look at the connectors on the back. This came out in the early 90s, and you might recognize maybe the VT100 or the VT220. Those were really popular terminals that DEC made before this one, and it looks like this would have set you back about 500 bucks in the early 90s. Not that much different from what I paid for it. I don't really know what these are worth, but it was cool to just get one from, you know, someone I know on Discord, and I trusted him to ship it properly, and he did. It's in really good shape. It's got that pretty classic terminal look here, short in the back, monitors all up here. It's very front heavy, so you have to be very careful when you're picking it up so it doesn't, you know, leave your hands, I guess I'll say. Nothing on the other side, looks just like that. All the good stuff's on the back. All sorts of good stuff. So this one's labeled COM1. This is a serial input. It's got a female and male connector, but it is just one. I don't think you can use them both at the same time. And then you can print, you can hook up a printer and print your screen, stuff like that. Here is COM2 and COM3. These are more serial connections. Something really interesting is this thing can handle multiple sessions. And I think I saw in an ad that you can see them on the screen at the same time. So if this thing works, we're going to try to get a couple computers hooked up to it. I think that'll be really cool. And you'll notice this connector is really funky looking. These are also serial connectors, but they're the DEC MMJ connector. MMJ, or Modified Modular Jack, was a serial port connector using RS422 that DEC had been using for a really long time. I think way back to like the PDP-11. And it's my understanding that some DEC terminals only use that, so you'd have to use it. I, of course, am lucky enough. I've got this normal DB25 thing here that I can hook up normal serial stuff with, and these things are kind of smart. They've got some ROMs inside that let you actually configure some of this stuff without being hooked up to a computer. I guess I should also say, what is this thing? Why is it different from a monitor? I think I kept saying I was going to tell you about that. You would have a serial connection to a computer, more than one in this case if you really wanted to. Typically the computer would be physically far away from you. I think this MMJ stuff can go, I don't know, tons and tons of feet away. And so you'd have a terminal at your workstation, and a bunch of these terminals would be hooked back up probably to one machine that allows multiple serial connections and multiple users to be online at the same time using the machine. Now, I remember using these. I was born in the late 80s, so I didn't use them for work, but I have a very distinct memory of going to the library. In the US here, I think it was really common in the library to have maybe not these digital terminals. This would have been in the 90s, well into the late 90s. And it was like a green screen, and you could search through the book catalog by like author and title and things like that. And you'd go in there. I think we used to take field trips in elementary school, and they would take us to the local library, and the librarians would teach us how to use this like terminal-based system to look up books and stuff. It was, you weren't really tested on it, but you were expected to know how to do it. And so I have fond memories of that. That's kind of my only connection to an actual physical terminal like this. I wanted to get the full DEC experience here, so I bought some of these MMJ to DB9 serial adapters, and I think you can convert the RS422 that the MMJ is using over to regular old RS232. We'll have to look up the pinouts. I'll get to pin these myself and everything, but that shouldn't be too bad. And then I picked up an MMJ cable. New old stock, it appears. It is a DEC part number 1700811102. Apparently a communication circuit accessory. And I was looking at this date code, and at first I was like, wow, could that possibly be 1972? And then I realized there's barcodes all over this thing, so definitely not 1972. And just kind of the feel of the plastic and everything, the look of the labels, I'm guessing this is from the 90s, early 90s. But it's old. This used to be a rubber band that was around it. So that's my MMJ cable. And a really funny story about these adapters. I placed an order for them on eBay from the Dillon Electronics eBay store. And the guy messaged me and said, hey, is Brad your dad? I was like, yeah. And the guy that runs this store used to work for my dad. My dad used to run computer stores in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the guy running this eBay store worked for him for like 7 or 8 years, and I remember him. We go out to lunch all together and stuff, and I remember him building computers. And he wrote a really nice letter to me and mentioned that he had basic knowledge of computers when he started, and then he was building between 24 and 48 computers a day at my dad's warehouse, and he learned a lot. And he wrote, he's sort of discussing how different everything was at the time, about how no one wanted those clunky Model M keyboards from IBM. Of course, they're the holy grail now. And he writes a story about how they couldn't even sell them, couldn't get rid of them, and they'd throw them away. Don't blame him for that. That was just what it was like back then. No one wanted old stuff. In the 90s and the early 2000s, computers were changing so fast that everyone just wanted new stuff. And he threw in a bunch of extras. He was already a viewer of the channel, and when he recognized my name, he gave me a couple extra bonus items. I've got some ISA vertical to horizontal adapters, 8 and 16-bit. This is really nice. This is a postcode card, PCI and ISA. And basically, if you're troubleshooting an old motherboard, you plug this in, and if your stuff's not too screwed up, it'll spit out some codes. And I was going to buy one of these anyway, so super awesome that he threw that in. Thank you very much. Anyway, I thought that was hilarious. What are the chances of that? I'm buying some MMJ connectors, and it turns out to be a guy that used to work for my dad. Anyway, Dylan Electronics, he's got a lot of cool stuff on his eBay store. Onward. And then finally, the terminal needs a keyboard to interact over the serial port with. And because this is so late in the terminal game for DEC, it takes a PS2 keyboard, which is really nice for me because this would have come with a VT keyboard. VT stands for video terminal, I think. And I don't have one of those, though I just ordered one on eBay. I don't think it's going to get here in time. But yeah, you can plug in a PS2 keyboard. You can use a regular old DB25 serial connector. So if you don't want to deal with this DEC proprietary stuff, it seems to me like the VT520 is a pretty good option. I don't really know what this thing is. It doesn't really come out the rest of the way. We'll have to look in the manual on that. And then, of course, the power. So I think I need to figure out how to open this up and not kill myself. There is a single screw on the back here. I found the user manual. That's well archived, but I have yet to find any disassembly instructions. But if we put it over here on this white towel, that was a bold choice. Don't tell my wife. You're looking at it upside down. The screen's over here. There are definitely some clips right here that appear to take the faceplate off, but not all the way. So I'm going to put it up on its end and try that, I guess. I haven't taken that screw out. Ooh, this is a really hard angle. But maybe I need to. It's almost like, yeah, I think I need to. It's almost like the monitor's coming. I thought just this bezel would come off, but the monitor's coming with it. So I'm going to take that screw out real quick. A single screw I've found right on the back here. It looks like maybe it's captive. Yep, I think that was a DEC thing. Let's try that again. Don't judge me if this goes terribly wrong. You know, I wonder if it makes more sense to put it like this. You hear that in there, maybe? Something's in there. I'd really like to know if that's a screw or something that's going to short something. So we were going to have to do this anyway, I think. Oh yeah, look how easy that is. Okay, so all I did was put the heavy part down, unscrewed it, and now we are in, and I have to be very careful not to touch any high voltage stuff. I hate working on monitors. Here it is. It is a Philips M32 EBY12LA tube, apparently. And I'm not seeing anything suspicious in terms of busted electronics or anything that has burnt up, so that is good. We're not going to touch any of that, at least right now. I have not de-energized this tube because I don't think I'm going to need to touch it. And if we look at the power switch, I don't know if you can tell, but it is definitely like misaligned. There, I just fixed it. So now I can click it. This board like shifted or something. It's like it's shifted past this retaining clip. It's supposed to be, I'm not explaining this very well. Let me get closer. The edge of this PCB is on the outside of this plastic clip. This board, because I looked at the other side, it's in the right position, is supposed to sit in this slot. And so I'm going to very carefully lift the whole assembly up. I don't know, it's almost like that happened from the factory. That's bizarre. I'm going to do this off camera so that I'm paying really close attention to what I'm touching, and I'll be right back. Here's a clear shot of what it's supposed to look like versus mine has this on the outside there. And I'm thinking because that's been over there for so long, maybe even it was put back together wrong by someone, this plastic has broke, which I don't think is going to be a big deal. So the problem is it really doesn't want to twist much. It's in these clips. I guess I could release these clips. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. to lift this side of the board past that plastic. Okay, again, I'm gonna go do this. I'll be right back. I got it. It's back in position. I put the monitor like this, and I was able to release these two clips carefully, and the whole board would slide back just enough that I could reposition it. It needs to guide into all these, it needs to clip into these, and it needs to be past these. That was putting a lot of stress on this corner of the PCB being stuck like that. And you can see it kind of broke. I didn't do that, this is how it was. It's almost like it got jostled really hard and just kind of just enough to come out and break past that and get stuck wedged in there. But check this out, we are good. That's how that is supposed to sound and work. I'm really hoping that's the only problem with this thing. I'm going to get it put back together and we're going to try to power it on. Oh, but before I do that, that little weird flap door thing gave access to this, like, what was that, like a Centronics connector or something? I'll have to read the manual. I don't know what that's about. But there it is, now you know. I also need to figure out what was rattling around in here. Having seen what was going on there, it's almost certainly that little bit of plastic that broke off that allowed that board to jump out. And it might have already even fallen out as I was doing this, but I'll take a good look. I know some of you would have appreciated a closer look around in there, but I really do not like having monitors sitting open. I know everyone, it's like cliche to say don't do this, but they literally can kill you. It's really bad. Or make your life pretty miserable if you get zapped. I think we're back together. I never found the piece of plastic, and there's nothing rolling around in there anymore. And my button still works okay. There is still something rolling around in there. I'm going to take it apart again. That is not worth the risk of that being something that's metal. It sounds plastic, but yeah, I'm going to have another look and see if I can't figure that out. I found it. Whatever this thing is. Plastic. Okay, I'm buttoning it back up. Now I feel better. We are going to take a very optimistic posture on this and put the base on. It's got a little embossed diagram about how to do this. Let's see how accurate it is. So it says you put it like that, and then you pull it up. Yep. Oh no, I'm missing a rubber bumper. I have a bunch of these somewhere, but of course I can't find them. That'll be okay for now. Looks like this is quite the stand. All right, this is not the ideal keyboard for this, but it's what I've got. PS2 keyboard hooked up. I've got the power cord plugged in, but there's no power to it. We're not out of the woods yet. I'm pretty sure even with this off, the button's off right now, once I give it power, some components are going to receive power, some capacitors could go. So let's just give it power. Nothing. That's good. Kind of got it pointed away from me for the initial boot up here. Let me get you closer though. You can't really get hurt. We're hoping for like a self-test. Okay, I heard the high voltage sound and it beeped. Self-test okay. Can you see that? All right. Yes. Let's mess around with brightness. Powered it back on because I accidentally hit the power button when I was messing around there. Takes a moment. Self-test okay. It is amber. That's kind of cool. All right, can we mess with this and get anything? Oh yeah. Yep, we can turn the brightness way up. This is going to be torture to film. Now, I think I was reading on this PS2 keyboard, you have to hold caps lock and I think print screen to get into what I'm thinking is going to be a really sophisticated menu system. On the VT keyboard, it would have been one of these top buttons to configure it. So I'm going to do caps and print. Oh, yo, look at this. Look how involved this is. Session management, lines per screen. Look, it's super crisp. I know I'm probably not filming it really well. It makes a nice click every time you go through the menus. Got the terminal. It can do tons of different terminal emulation modes, which is exciting. We'll probably have to look into that depending on what we hook this up to. Wow. Yep, got the PC keyboard language. Look at all these options. So yeah, you can set the parity and stop bit, and I think parity was on none, that's normal. Transmit speed of the serial ports, receive speed, flow control, man, everything you'd expect. Modem control, no, we don't care about that. You can set up the printer. Yes, 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 yes. It looks absolutely incredible. Maybe a little faded. The black's not really black, but I don't know if that was just normal for these. I've never used one. How do we get out of here? I'm going to exit setup to see if we just have local echo on. So yeah, here is a terminal. We do not have local echo on. Let's see, caps print gets us into here. Let's see if we can turn on echo. There it is. Local echo just spits back. Okay, enter to turn that on. Ooh, it really doesn't like you not using enter and arrow keys. Okay, let's get out of here. And now, yeah, we can do whatever we want. It's really nice looking. I'm sort of in shock. I'm very excited about this. To get the full terminal experience here, we're going to hook this thing up over serial, of course, to this IBM RS6000 43P140 Unix workstation. It's running AIX, IBM's Unix variant. This would have been a pretty common setup. This thing might have been a bigger RS6000, maybe in a different room, but pretty era-appropriate combination here, I would say. And this thing is running AIX on an actual spinning Rust SCSI hard drive. So each boot might be its last. Let's hope for the best. I've got the 25 pin to, what is that, 9 pin serial cable adapter here. This will go in the terminal. This will go on the RS6000. I need to go refresh my memory on all the serial settings for this machine. I'll be right back. I think we're going to want 9600 baud, and of note is this terminal type. Pretty sure VT520 is going to work on this thing. So if we go down to communication, you can select the ports. So remember, there's those MMJ ports that we could also be plugging things into, and it's called port select, but I don't really know which port I'm configuring in the menu. So like, you can set different physical ports to what they're calling COM1, 2, 3, I guess. And then if we get out of here, what I mean is, I don't know what I'm configuring here. Do they all have to be the same baud rate and setting? I'm not sure. So transmit speed, and then we're gonna set this to 9600, and then, whoops, parity non-stop bit 1. That's totally fine. I'm gonna say local echo back on. Maybe I don't care about that. Also, clearly didn't save my settings, so I'm gonna save the settings. And I think this writes it to an EEPROM. Don't think there's a battery in there. I only know that because Adrian's Digital Basement, he did a video on an older one, and he said that, and I believe him. So let's get out of here. It's so cool seeing the terminal prompt. I love it. The other end of the cable's already in the terminal. I'm pretty sure we're gonna need a null modem adapter in this scenario. And these things are probably gonna get in my way. I need to get better null modem adapters. I always end up taking these bolts off, and then eventually the whole thing just kind of falls apart, and it's a huge mess. These things were actually going to physically block me from plugging it into the back of the RS6000, but they do unscrew relatively easily. Come on. So cool. There we go. Okay. So I've only got the serial cable and the power cable going into this thing. Remember, the keyboard is actually plugged into this. Pretty fun. Let's plug this guy in. I'm pretty sure he likes to start up just right away. Yes. The trick will be, are my serial settings correct? I think it takes a moment. It's also possible I don't need that null modem. That hard drive's coming to life. Takes the old dog a minute. Ooh, yes. 0. That is this console. That's coming from the RS6000. Yeah, look at that. It's booting up on a real terminal. This is so cool. Speaker still works. Yes, this was the way it was meant to be experienced, at least over this thing's serial port. I actually have a video card in this thing, one of them blessed in the matrix of cards that IBM has allowed you to use in this. So it's kind of a moot point, but cool nonetheless. That is that poor hard drive trying to boot into AIX. All the stuff we've seen on the screen so far is just actually in the firmware on the RS6000. We haven't seen an operating system yet. Come on, buddy, you can do it. There it goes. That is AIX starting up. That part's not too surprising, I guess, other than that sketchy hard drive. I just really like seeing it on the terminal. All right, the first login. Root. We're in AIX 5.1. I like that it makes little click sounds. Yep, this is Unix. I want to see what this multi-session thing is about, and that's going to require an MMJ adapter and another computer. I suppose I could do 2 sessions on this one, but yeah, that's no fun. So I'm going to think of another computer to hook this up to, and we're going to make a cable together, and we'll try to get the multi-session thing going. And in the meantime, I'm going to halt this poor hard drive. A successful halt. This thing is like too awesome. I can't get over it. Okay, I'm going to read the documentation about multi-session, and we'll make a cable, and so on. Been thinking of a few fun ideas for how we're going to do the multi-session testing on this thing. But in the meantime, I've got a treat for you. My mom worked for DEC in the 1980s. She is the beautiful woman at the bottom of this picture at a holiday party for Digital Equipment Corporation in the early 1980s. So there's the proof. Mom's a little apprehensive about being on camera. Can't really blame her. So what we're going to do is we're going to call her. I'll put her on speakerphone and we'll have a brief conversation and ask her about her time at DEC during the 1980s.
Hello.
Hi, Mom. Got you on speakerphone and the camera's rolling. So we'll have you just introduce yourself and tell us how you ended up at DEC and what your time was like there in the 1980s.
Okay, I'm Pam, Colby's mom, and I worked there from about 1981 to 1988. Through a friend that worked there is how I got the job. And it's a great company. I really enjoyed working there. The group I was with sold contracts to different companies.
You mentioned like field service contracts or something like that?
Yeah, field service contracts that our field service personnel would go out to maintain. And one of our biggest customers was Boeing. I can't remember others, but I mean, I think Lockheed might have been one too.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, but yeah, and there was about 4 to 5 people in our group, and that's what they did. And I did whatever I needed to do to help them.
You were a secretary, right? That was the position?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense, giving the Boeing thing, because I should mention this was at in Washington State. So where was the office located?
It was in Bellevue.
Bellevue. Do you remember how many people were in that office, roughly?
Oh gosh, there was quite a few.
Like tens or hundreds?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of their main offices. I can't remember if they had locations elsewhere.
They definitely did. I think they were headquartered on the East Coast. I think they called that office. I just did some quick Googling. I didn't memorize this. I think it was called DEC West or something like that. It was sort of a satellite office off the main one, but it sounds like it was pretty big.
It was, because I mean, we had the field service. There's a few women in there though too.
Yeah.
They'd go out and they had to house all them, and they took care of Washington. In fact, sometimes they'd fly him. One of the guys I knew, he actually flew down to San Francisco to do some work.
Oh, to do field service work. So the actual technicians might have been based in that office as well.
Yeah.
Cool. So for me, go ahead.
And the sales people too. They'd go out and sell stuff, so they were there too.
Right. So for me, growing up, I was born in 1988, and that's actually why Mom stopped working at DEC, to take care of me. Yeah. But like, I don't have a good grasp on what it's like to go to an office and not like have a computer to work on. I think you mentioned you started with a typewriter. So tell us about what that was like. I don't know if you remember what the day-to-day was like, but you did have a good story about the typewriter anyway.
Well, yeah, when I first started there, one of the guys that I worked for, he was writing a book on something. I can't remember what. Like I said, it's been so long. But I had to type it up on a typewriter with carbon copies, 3 copies there to do. And, and that's a pain in the butt. It's a pain. And so once I got a computer, it was all new and stuff to me, but you learned it quick enough. I don't believe the personnel I worked with, they did not have computers.
Okay.
It just wasn't that, I can't remember, but I don't think they did.
Do you remember anything about
stuff for them?
You would type up stuff and print out stuff on your computer?
Yeah, for them.
Do you remember anything about what the computer might have been? Probably not.
Oh, an old one, like you have from your dad, like we call the dinosaur.
Oh, like a TRS-80? Oh, well,
Well, that
I
big
guess
thing
you,
that you have.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, it
so,
was something like that.
oh,
Yeah.
I bet it was, this is for the video. I bet it was something called like a VT100 or a DEC terminal, where it was probably like a screen with like maybe green writing or white writing, right? All text, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what this video is actually about. I have a modern version of that. Probably
Uh-huh.
definitely not what you had in the 80s. I'll put a screenshot of what I'm guessing you were typing on.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I'm sure it was a DEC machine, I
Oh
would
yeah,
guess.
definitely.
Um,
Definitely.
and then you had a good story about how you got that computer, I think.
Oh yeah. Like I said, I had a typewriter,
Hmm.
and I got some sort of card in the mail or something like how's the service or something like that. I can't quite remember.
Like a
But I'm
feedback form or something.
yeah, and I'm like, well, I don't even have a computer yet. I work for a computer company, so this is what I don't get, and I sent it back. And so, like within a week, our field service manager is up with a computer installing for me, and I'm like, oh, this is nice. And so then my manager comes up and goes, well, Pam, maybe next time you should come to me first, and we can discuss this.
That's
I'm
so,
like, oh, okay.
that's so
I
funny.
never thought that, it was going to cause it. And I wasn't in trouble. She was just saying, hey, next time just let me know when you want something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it was funny. I didn't realize what it was going to cause.
And then the only other thing you've really brought up before is that you just really liked, well, the company was great. You really liked the people, but I think you said they threw really good parties, is what you
Well,
keep saying.
they did. They threw really great parties. I mean, they took very good care of us.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had mentioned to you, a couple of summers they'd rent a campground over in Lake Easton, which was the eastern part of Washington State, and we got to go over there and camp if we wanted to for a weekend. I mean, and just hang out, and it's just a lot of fun. Other time, like the Christmas one, we'd have, and yeah, different things. And sometimes our managers, my manager would even just have our group all over and stuff just to do stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And was it a pretty young employee base? So you would have been in your 20s and 30s, I guess.
Yeah. Thinking everybody in my group was older than I
Okay.
was by a few years, maybe not except for one. In fact, Steve Rabel, the Seahawk player that used to be Seahawk player, his wife worked there.
Oh, nice.
She was in our group. Yeah, Sharon Rabel. She was in our group.
That's funny.
And yeah, that was interesting. But no, they were a little bit older than me.
Okay.
So yeah, like I said, it was a good group, and all of us got along really well. I don't remember not liking somebody.
Right.
There. I didn't know everybody, but I knew enough of them. Yeah.
That's nice. Is there anything else you want to say about your time?
No, just that it was a good company, and I would have stayed there.
Yeah. If not for me.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
In those days, we worked in an office.
Yeah.
In fact, I was in a cubicle towards the back door, and people would go back, and I could, this is funny, I could recognize people's footsteps as they were going by and who it was, because they would do it so often. I was like, oh, there goes so-and-so.
So it was cubicles then, for most of you, probably.
Everybody was in a cubicle.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's actually nicer than today's standards in some places.
Well, open, isn't it, sometimes?
I've worked places where I would have killed for a cubicle.
Yeah.
What else? I guess it was just a 9 to 5. I'm trying to think of other questions here. I wasn't prepared.
8 to 5.
8 to 5? Okay.
Yeah. 8 to 5. Because we had an hour for lunch.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. Anything else?
I don't think so. Like I said, it was a fun, I mean, there was enough people my age or maybe a little younger that, all of us, we'd go out sometimes too, like after work. And so it was just a fun group to have. And everybody, like I said, got along well. It was a good company. Like I said, they took care of you. They took care of you well. So it was nice to work there.
I think I've read that from other former employees too. And it's really cool that you got to work for such a historically significant company in the computing space. I mean, they're not around anymore, but yeah, they were a huge player.
Yeah.
And you were there, right? Sort of in the heart of it. So that's really cool.
Yeah, there was a lot of equipment out there. So definitely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mom.
Oh,
I'm sure other
sure.
people might comment and have questions, which you are free to do, and then I can ask Mom and get back to you. So thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Okay, you're welcome. Talk
Bye.
to you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you go. We did that off the cuff. We didn't really prepare that. And so if you do have other questions for her, she'd be more than happy to answer them. Just leave a comment down below and I'll get it to her. I have a funny idea. It's funny to me anyway. We're going to manage this Cisco 2600 router over the terminal. This thing has a serial console port on the back, this RJ45 connector, and I've got this Cisco serial cable, they call them. I think it already has a null modem inside of it, pretty sure. I had to use a ginger changer to get into this guy. So I'm gonna hook this up to the terminal and I assume it's gonna work. Everything's hooked up. I'm very excited about this for some reason. Oh yeah. There is just something about seeing any serial output on this thing. I really, really enjoy it. This thing's pretty slow, so we'll let it load up and then look at the config or something. Here it goes. Scrolls really smoothly. That's a terminal characteristic, which is really nice. No. So it's been factory reset, or the battery's dead or something, I don't know. There we go. So we can get in here, show run. That's nice. It beeps at you when the output's done. That was interesting though. So usually you can kind of interact and scroll the screen, but when I show run, it just spits it all out, and I can't actually see what was up ahead of it. I guess page up. Nope. So I'm guessing, I don't know that I'm gonna do anything about it, but I'm guessing in here I could probably change a bunch of settings. Here's the bell stuff, the warning bell that keeps spitting at us. Oh, I meant to show you this. The old calculator. Oh no, it's like on the screen now. How do I enter? I guess it's the numpad. It is. That's hilarious. Exit the calculator with F10. Okay. Cool. Ridiculous. Okay, so we've got two terminal sources to try this multi-session thing out, but we only have one way to plug them in right now. So we need to get this MMJ adapter in the mix so that we can plug in another source to one of the inputs on the terminal. I was reading that you can wire these in such a way that it will work with RS-232, which is what all my devices here are expecting. So I'm going to go do a little more research and see if I can't pin this correctly the first time. I found a trustworthy looking DB9 to MMJ adapter pinout online, and it ended up being a little involved. Had to write out a cheat sheet for where all these wires need to go, and a bunch of them need to be joined together. So one of them coming out of the MMJ needs to go to 3 different spots on the DB9. 2 need to be joined together on the MMJ and go to 1 on the DB9. So I'm cheating. For prototyping reasons. I'm using a breadboard whenever I need to join them up, and I'm using this little breakout DB9 thing, which is awesome. Really like having that. And then the other ones are just straight wire-to-wire situations, and I've just got tape in the way. And it was kind of nice. I was able to actually jam my little wires, maybe you can see that, into the connectors that usually would have gone into the plug. So anyway, it looks ridiculous, but I think it's right. So we'll get our MMJ cable going in here. What could possibly go wrong? Come on. This is what's left over from our last session here, and you can see there's this 1 in the bottom left of the screen. So if I get into the configuration, I can go to session, select a session, press session 2, and then if I exit out of here, you can see it now says 2, and the screen is different. So this is what's coming over a different physical connector in the back, one of the MMJs. I haven't figured out the keyboard shortcut to transfer between these, but I think that is the basic idea when it comes to session management. And if you remember over here on communication port select, these are the different COM ports, they're calling them. And these are sessions 1 through 4, and session 2 has been assigned to COM2, I think. Just this is all by default. And I think that's what's going on here. So I'm going to plug the MMJ into the port on the back labeled COM2, and we're already on session 2 right now, so let me go plug that cable in. And so the other end of the MMJ cable, oh, it says DEC Connect Office cable on the jacketing there. The other end of this cable is in COM2. this is going to the Cisco, and I believe what I've created here does not have a null modem. 99% sure, we'll find out. So we're gonna plug this in here and flip the Cisco on. Oh, I bet you were doubting my cable work. It's working. Look at this thing. Oh yeah. I suppose we should wait to see if I can actually interact with it. I'm assuming I can if I'm getting this far. You never know. I can type. That's looking good. Oh yeah. This thing is so sweet. Okay, so that's session 2. I plugged this guy back into COM 1. The router is still on, so we need to give this guy some juice. He's going to boot up, and what we're going to do, and I will try to find the keyboard shortcuts for this, because I'm sure they exist. Let's hop over to session 1. There's probably a fast way to get out of this too, instead of scrolling through the menu. That is the old output from the last time we were using this router. There's probably a clear screen command as well. It'd be really nice to have the VT keyboard, because I'm sure it's all printed on there, what a bunch of these common commands. But basically what we should see is the RS6000 is going to take over and start spitting data over the serial terminal. We should see it on the screen here, I think. Yeah, there it goes. Amazing. So while this is booting up, we can, of course, this isn't going to surprise anyone, we can go to the other session. We're back at the router. Okay. And now we're back at the RS6000. I'm going to let that boot up. I'm going to go look at some keyboard shortcuts and see if there's anything else interesting we can do with multiple sessions here. It's still booting. The documentation claims we can hit Control F4 to see multiple sessions. That does nothing. Or Control Caps Lock 0. Oh! Yes. So Control F4 must have been for the VT keyboard. Control Caps Lock 0 on the numpad. That's important. What do we even... How do I switch between them? So session 1 is up here. This is wild. This is so cool. And it says if we just keep iterating through that, it'll show different... Oh, it just flips back and forth. So you get horizontals, and then you can go back to your full set. This is so cool. And then we're in, of course. Ooh, whoops. I know. There we go. I was in caps lock. And I was reading, I hold caps lock and press 1, 2, 3, or 4 on the numpad to switch sessions. So I'm going to do caps lock 2. Yeah. Look at this. So I can do stuff. Oh, this is like so sweet. I got to think of something like actually cool and useful to do with this new power I have. So there we go. We've got, what was that? Control Caps 0. We've got multiple sessions on a single terminal. One over MMJ, one over the typical DB25 on the RS6000 and a Cisco router. And let's see, I'm at the top here in session 1. I'm wondering if I can do caps lock 2. Yeah, so this would have blown my mind. It's blowing my mind now. All right, I was playing around there and not filming it very well. I'm on session 2. I'm on the router. No surprise, I can do caps lock 1. And then I'm up here on the RS6000, caps lock 2. I'm back down on the router. This is amazing. I love this thing. I'm in love. I feel like I haven't been getting my excitement across this whole video because I'm just kind of shocked that it worked and it really was just a physical power button issue. Speaking of power, it's got this really nice power saving feature where it turns the whole monitor off after, I don't know, 10 minutes. And you press a button and it comes right back, which I like. That probably helped save this thing from a lot of burn-in over its life. Again, it was from 1996. If I had to guess, it probably saw 5 to 10 years of use, which is nothing for a terminal, especially one that was, you know, ones that were built in the 80s or whatever that were probably around in certain offices for 20 plus years. This thing's incredibly useful, if not just for attaching it to Cisco devices and other things that need a serial console while I'm messing around. I'm going to have to try to find a permanent place for it down here in the workshop. What I'd really like to do is get it hooked back up to some really big IBM P-Series gear I've got also running AIX LPARs and try to get some software on there, you know, Lotus 123 or something, and use it in sort of a real world way. So you will definitely be seeing this thing again. I hope you enjoyed the interview with my mom. I almost kind of forget that she worked there because it was before I was born, obviously. Her last day was basically a week before I was born. She had me and then was a stay-at-home mom with myself and my two younger brothers, and eventually went back to work elsewhere. But it's pretty cool, I think, that she was there. I remember as we were growing up that we'd have little like deck keychains and stuff, like tiny little bits of swag. They're long gone now. Maybe a couple mugs or something that she had picked up over the years. I didn't realize she had worked there quite a while, from 81 to 88. That's a pretty impressive tenure, and she's only ever had good things to say about it. She was racking her brain trying to remember the day-to-day and kind of more details about what was going on in the office, but it was so long ago, it was 40 years ago, she just can't quite remember. But I'm really glad that she can remember some of those stories, and we were able to share them with you. If you have more questions for her, I'm serious, leave a comment. I'll get it to Mom, and I'll respond to your comment as best we can anyway. But yeah, that wraps it up for the VT520. I really, really like this thing. It's the first terminal I've bought. Something tells me I'm going to start buying more of them. It's almost like getting into telephones or something. I might be getting into terminals. But we'll definitely get this in other videos where we do more, real world stuff with it. Try to recreate what someone might have been doing with it in the early 90s anyway for this one. Thank you so much for following along as I somewhat revived this VT520, though I'll admit it wasn't very technically difficult. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to hit 70,000 subscribers by the end of this year, 2025. And I've also got a Patreon. I post behind the scenes type videos, the occasional early release, and basically what I'm tinkering with. The $5 and up also gets access to the Serial Port Discord, which has an awesome group of people, and it's actually how I ended up being able to buy this terminal. But that wraps it up for this one. I'll see you in the next video.